The show focused on delivering beneficial information on everything to do with products and services that can improve your life. This is Experts on Call on AM 650.
Welcome back to the program. The service in question today is roof, and we're talking with Sean Lang, president of Interprovincial Roof Consultants, on the program. And Sean, I know this is going to, please try to stay awake because this is so rudimentary. I mean, you did this stuff when you were in high school, for crying out loud, but back us up. All of us have roofs over where we live.
Yep.
Most of us, I would bet the farm, know precious little, if anything, about what's keeping us dry and warm. So let's talk about roofing systems. How many types of roofing systems are there?
Oh, there's several. I mean, when you're talking about a sloped, okay, there's two basic categories.
Okay.
There's flat and sloped roof systems.
Okay.
Flat roof membranes can be used on sloped roof systems, but sloped roofed materials cannot be used on flat roof systems.
Interesting. Okay. So it's not a complete two-way street in that regard.
Isn't.
Okay.
And the reason is that a flat roof membrane, and I'm emphasizing the word membrane here, ends up being basically a monolithic material by the time it's all done. In the case of a torch-on system or an SBS system, which is the actual acronym for what a torch-on system is, the rolls are bonded together by heat welding them. So the material, which is comprised of a bitumen and styrene butadiene styrene mix that is married to a reinforcement mat. So it goes through a thing called a calendar, which is a really big machine the size of a Safeway. And the liquid bitumen goes in and it goes onto a conveyor in liquid form, but it's basically a meter wide. And then a reinforcement mat that's a meter wide is introduced into that bed of hot bitumen.
Okay.
And it absorbs it, and it actually gets set at a certain depth within the thickness of the material. And then a top coat of the same bitumen is put on top as it's going through the calendar.
Right.
So now you have a sandwich of bitumen, a reinforcement mat, and then a bitumen again, and then they coat the top of that with, they embed granules into the top of that. Or, in some cases, just a polyfilm. Because
And then does it come to you at the roofing site in rolls?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it comes in rolls. So basically the material gets combined in a calendar machine, and at the end it goes in one end as a roll of reinforcement mat, which just looks like a scrim, and some liquids go into this machine, and it comes out as one roll. Okay, so that type of membrane gets heat welded together. The liquid, the bitumen, gets melted on the back side of the roll or on the top side of the roll.
So does this format or does this approach apply to every flat roof then, Sean?
No, there's single ply systems. Yes and no.
Okay, suppose one of these new condos they're building all over the city, 200-300 more units, obviously a big flat roof on top of that. What's going to be up that system that you were just talking about?
Probably, most likely. There's different kinds of flat roof systems. There's single ply and double ply, or two ply. The SBS or torch-on system is a two ply system. So you have a base ply that gets put down and welded together to form one complete layer by the time it's all done. Then they do a second layer that's welded to that first layer of a similar product, only this time it has the granules on top of it.
And the welding process is actually these heat torches that you were talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
Then there's a single ply systems, which are basically just one sheet of material with the seams welded together or glued together. In EPDM, which is a rubber roof system, it's basically like a sheet of rubber over a building. The seams are actually glued together. Okay, so it's an adhesive that glues them together.
Right.
With a TPO roof system, which is thermoplastic polyolefins, it's actually heat welded together with an air gun or a robot welder. So the seams, it's a one-piece system, but the seams are welded together. So the difference being that on the one-ply system, if you get a hole, it goes through that very thin, I mean, we're talking about a few mils thick material. It goes through and there's no secondary layer, whereas on a two-ply system, a torch-on system, there's actually one complete layer and then another complete layer welded to it.
Which of the two is more likely to be used in Metro Vancouver these days?
It depends on the type of building.
Okay.
But predominantly the torch-on system is being applied.
Okay. And that would be to both commercial and residential structures?
Flat roofs, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Reason being that there are more installers that can do it. and the product is easy to fit onto any building. For instance, the EPDM rolls, they can come in very large sheets, 50 by 100 foot sheets that you have to place on the building and then carefully unravel in such a way that you don't have to move it around too much once it's opened up.
Oh, right.
So
good,
you position,
good luck with that.
it comes in a big roll, it gets craned onto a warehouse typically, and then they unravel it hopefully in almost the right position. Maybe 10 guys will yank on one side and pull it over a little bit, but generally they're trying to position it pretty close to where they want it. So the torch-on systems become more easy to adapt to whatever building. I like the torch-on system because it ends up being quite a bit thicker and more resilient, in my opinion, than these other systems, the single-ply systems.
Okay, now that whole membrane flat roof is one basic category, and the other would be the shingles, and what do you call that roof? That
sloped roof.
Sloped roof, right? And that can be a round slope or a straight slope or several angles, but they're all sloped.
Yeah, the basic principle with that is it's a water shedding system.
Okay.
Right, so you have overlapping materials that will deflect the water with gravity down to either a gutter or just dripping off the edge of the roof or whatever. But it's a water shedding principle in the sense that if you turn that roof system upside down, it would now be catching water.
Right. Okay.
So you cannot use those systems on a flat roof. You cannot use those products on a flat roof. So where a torch-on system, you can carry up a wall. You can do it on a vertical.
Okay.
Right? Same with EPDM and TPO. Those membranes can be installed on a vertical.
So if you see these row housing, these townhouse condo complexes, Sean, where there's portions of the roofs are flat and some of them have sloped cupolas sticking out, some of the designs are really out there and fun to look at, and I imagine pretty cool to live in. But would that be a combination of the two types of roof? Interesting.
Yeah, we run into that all the time, where you'll have the majority of, let's take a large strata apartment style building, but it has some nice turrets on the corners of the building, and it might have a mansard roof running along the front to give it a shingle look, right? So you have this architectural design on the edges, the perimeters of the building, but really the main roof is a flat roof that's nested in the center of the building. And it's done because of height restrictions, because they can build and maximize the amount of units in that building that they're allowed. Let's say they're only allowed 4 stories in their municipality. They maximize, if they had to put a roof on, a sloped roof, that roof, you're basically measuring from somewhere in the middle of the roof system. So if it's this tall of a roof.
It could cost you a story on a building then.
It could.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's wasted space.
Right.
Some people say, well, why not always have a sloped roof system? It deflects water. If you slope it all to the edge of the building, you'll never, ever have a leak. Well, yes, sloped roof systems do leak, and they do leak into the building. But it's usually because of those height restrictions and the maximizing of the space of the building that you go with a flat roof system.
And back to those homes in the burbs under construction that we're all kind of looking at this summer. We do that in the summertime. Well, let's go see what they're building in Langley this weekend. And off we go. So we see these roofing crews, and they're up there, and they got the trusses, and then the first layer over the truss is generally just plywood of some description, and then they have these rolls of black stuff. What's that?
Underlayment.
Okay. And what does it do?
Well, basically, underneath the shingles, you want to have an eave protection, which is usually a self-adhesive membrane. So just starting from where the gutters are and going up to within usually it runs past the vertical plane of the building wall. So if you have your sloped roof where the building wall meets the sloped roof, you go inside another foot at least with a self-adhesive membrane, and that's for ice damming protection. In case the gutters back up or ice forms in the gutters, and that water, when the ice melts, may not melt off, it may melt back into the roof system.
Oh, okay, so there's a guard against it.
It's a guard against that.
Okay.
And then from that point upward, you put an underlayment, which is another, I call it a secondary roof. But basically, it's a sheet membrane that goes over top and separates the asphalt shingles or whatever type of roof system from the wood, so that if the top layer, the main shingle roof system, was to leak, it'll hit that underlayment and hopefully run out.
What's that black stuff made of? Because it looks like the stuff we used to use in arts and crafts in grade school. I suspect it's probably a little more durable material than that. It just looks flimsy because we're looking at it from 20, 30 feet below as these guys are up there working.
Yeah, some of those are actually really tough membranes. There's different kinds. There's an asphalt-based wood fiber roll, which is your typical number 15 felt, which is probably the cheapest underlayment that you can use. And then there's a fiberglass-based asphalt roll, which is the same look, but it has more stability to lay flat because of the fiberglass plies.
When the homeowner is involved in the process, and these discussions come up, whether it's with the builder, Sean, or maybe the architect or someone involved in the preparation of this fabulous new residence, do you have an opportunity to discuss the way that your roof is made? I don't want that low grade stuff. I want I heard this guy on the radio who says there are two categories of black stuff that go under the shingles. I want the slightly pricier version because it's going to be more effective. Can you discuss that in advance?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah, and there's actually more than just the two. I mean, you can get
I believe you, but
there's other
I'm just
sheets available.
From the point of view of the homeowner getting involved, because, you know, we want the best, but, you know, typically we don't know what the heck we're talking about.
Yeah.
We just know we want the best.
Yeah. Well, people got to be careful with that, and it kind of brings up another issue where, as a consultant, what we do is we advise people on what they want to have in their roof system, right? And what kind of roof system they should have for their building. And our company, we try to advise people to have a good commodity system, but not a low budget system and not a high end system.
Right, okay.
We don't want to waste your money. We also don't want you to waste your money buying something that's not going to perform.
So mid-range is generally where you should look.
That's where we aim for.
Okay.
Mid and maybe just a touch higher than mid sometimes, depending on the roof. Flat roof systems, I'm going to be a little bit more stringent about what kind of materials are used, because a flat roof can end up being a bathtub, right? I mean, it's holding water.
Different ball game altogether.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking of a typical home in the burbs with the sloped roof.
Yeah. Those ones, again, you also want to make sure that the underlayment is a good underlayment. The eave protection is a good eave protection. And actually, one of the considerations that we have to do or take into consideration when we're speccing a roof is how slippery is that underlayment and how slippery is that eave protection. The roofers have to walk on it,
I suppose. And sometimes you see them put strips of wood on top of that just so they can get a foot grip as they work their way up. And then they just come off after they're finished, right?
Yeah, roof
Now,
jacks.
on top of the black stuff, the underlayment, goes another layer, the one we can all see, and that's shingles. And cedar shake shingles are very popular still here in the land of cedars. The other type is the asphalt.
Asphalt shingles.
Which of the two are actually better in terms of longer life and providing maximum coverage?
I would say these days the asphalt shingles are the predominant shingle. In the old days, when the cedar wasn't, it was all first growth cedar and everything, the quality of the cedar shingles and shakes that were being put out were much better. There's a lot of cedar that's being installed now that is very poor quality. It's very thin. The installers, there's fewer and fewer installers out there now. So the guys that really know how to install it are dropping away. Because they're all doing laminate shingles, asphalt shingles. So the number of installers that actually know how to cull the improper shingles and shakes and install the good ones that are 100% edge grain, those guys are falling away. So you end up with guys installing poor product, not getting rid of the bad shingles and shakes they're supposed to throw away, because out of every bundle there's waste that you have to get rid of.
You got to discard a few.
Yeah, and they're installing them because they feel like it's cutting into their profit if they throw those away.
Right.
They're buying them. Why do I have to throw them away? So they install these shingles and shakes that have knots in them, or they have curved grain in them. And what happens is those knots eventually, as the shingle dries out, wood dries and absorbs moisture, and dries and absorbs moisture.
Splits.
Yep. The splitting can happen because the grains are poor. The knots will pop out, so you end up with a nice big hole.
Right.
And if that big hole is over a split in a previous shake or shingle, you now have a potential leak.
Right.
So then there's the fact that a lot of guys don't know how to stagger them properly, or they don't know how to do the metalwork properly, or they use improper nails, which is a big problem. I've actually seen some roofing projects which were, let's say, 10 years old, cedar roofs, and the cedar is falling out. So you step on them, and we typically wear cleated shoes.
Right, of course.
But they skip out because the nails have corroded.
Oh, boy.
And what's happened is the roofers didn't use either galvanized nails, hot dip galvanized nails, or stainless steel nails, which won't corrode, or at least won't corrode as quickly. So they corrode at the point where they exit the first shingle and go into the next one. There's a very millimeter there between the shingles,
Right.
and the nail corrodes at that point, and now there's nothing holding them.
Right.
Right, because there's no other interlocking mechanism there. So they skip out, and all of a sudden you've got these shingles falling out on a 10-year-old roof.
Right.
And I've seen that happen a couple of times.
What would typically, if you get a 10-year lifespan out of a cedar shake roof, with today's asphalt products, what would a typical lifespan be for one of those new roofs nowadays?
Properly installed, you're looking at 20 to 25 years.
Right? Okay.
And cedar will, if you have very good shingles and shakes and you install them properly with stainless steel nails, you can get 25 to 30 years out of them.
Right.
It's just the cost is exorbitant because it's roughly 50% more to buy the cedar, right? Because the cost of it is just it's a very high cost item. So now you're going to pay more to buy the product. You're going to pay more to have it installed. So cost effectively, is it really worth it when you can get 20 to 25 years out of an asphalt shingle system?
Right.
They're actually easier to maintain too, which
Right.
is something we could talk about.
Dwayne is telling me we need to take a break, but just before, there is a golden rule with respect to cedar shake roofs. And particularly when it comes time to hang out the for sale sign on the front lawn. Some people get tempted to zap up the curb appeal, throw up some paint on the garage door and the gutters and so on. Hey, you know, we could power wash the roof. It'll make it look brand new. That's golden rule number one, according to Interprovincial Roof Consultants. No power washers on cedar roofs ever.
On any roof.
Really?
No roofs.
None, even on the tough new asphalt substances. No power washing the roof. So there you go. Even beyond cedar shaking.
The only one that I would maybe say you could is a metal panel roof system.
Oh, sure, of course, yeah.
But even then, you could blow water into the building. So you got to be very careful.
No power washers above the gutter line on your homes.
Yeah.
That's the rule from Sean Lang, president of Interprovincial Roof Consultants. With lots more ahead here on Experts on Call. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Delivering relevant and beneficial consumer information. This is Experts on Call. And there's more still ahead on AM 650.